What's going on, you guys? So today I'm bringing guys a brand new sports cards video. In today's video, I will be breaking down the best investments to make before the season starts. But before we get into that, I do want to say, as you guys know, I have my Sports Card Invest membership program. And like I mentioned in the last video, our program has been on fire. We've had 8 picks in the last 8 weeks that have gone up more than 100%. And one of them being Charles Barkley's 1986 Fleer that we were buying between $8,000 and $8,500 in a PSA 10. And that has since gone up to $16,500 and a $17,000 sale over here. So if you guys would like to join in on the profit, go ahead, click the link down below to sportscardsinvest.com. But without further ado, we're going to hop right into this video. So we're essentially going to break this down into 3 different categories. So the first category we have is players with increased roles. So one example of that, I believe, to be Kevin Porter Jr. We saw a lot of, I guess I would say sneak peeks of Kevin Porter Jr., his talent and his level of play last season. But this season, the Rockets are essentially Kevin Porter Jr.'s team. John Wall's gone. He will likely be gone. And we're essentially going to see kind of Kevin Porter Jr. take on a lot bigger of a role. And while I do not expect, the Rockets to do much or make much noise, I expect Kevin Porter Jr. to, his stats to go up a lot. I think he's going to do very well statistically, and he's going to draw a lot of attention of many investors, given how young he is and how well he can score. And I think definitely if he does end up getting traded from the Rockets, getting moved eventually, that's definitely a great move. So this, I would say, is a long-term investment in my eyes. I think it could really play out, especially given this is his team now. He can kind of, run it, average incredible stats, and really at his prices where they currently sit, I think we see a lot of great upside compared to the downside. So I definitely think Kevin Porter Jr. is one guy to really be looking in on. And another guy who actually rhymes with them, Michael Porter Jr. Michael Porter Jr., I believe a lot of his investments are very smart right now. And that is simply because his role is going to be his role was, already increased last season after Jamal Murray got injured. And Jamal Murray is not going to start this season, so we're going to see, Michael Porter Jr. take over that scoring role, take over a lot of the burden that Jamal Murray used to put up. We're going to see Porter Jr., I believe personally, has the opportunity to average 25 plus points per game. And I also believe Porter Jr. is a great long-term investment, given, the Nuggets have one of the greatest young cores in the league right now, with Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., and Nikola Jokic. I think these 3 are really going to make a run in the Western Conference every single year that they're together. These 3 guys are not shy, when the lights get big. As we saw in the NBA bubble, Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, and Jokic all performed incredibly, and had a great run, in the NBA bubble. So I definitely think, with all of these guys healthy again, and especially Porter Jr. right now with Jamal Murray injured, I think his role is going to be really increased and his averages are going to go up, and that's going to cause investors to throw some money into Michael Porter Jr. But the next kind of list we have on here is players who will now get more attention. So one prime example is Zach LaVine. And Zach LaVine's a player who, of course, can score the ball. I believe he averaged, a good 26 points per game last year, maybe even a little bit more. Of course, the Bulls were not very good last year. They were a very young team, and they got hardly any attention, despite the fact that Zach LaVine was putting up incredible numbers. And right now, this offseason, the Bulls added Lonzo Ball, they added DeMar DeRozan, they added Alex Caruso, they added a lot of pieces that are really going to help put them on the map. I believe they're going to be a top 6 seed in the Eastern Conference, if not even higher. So I think with the Bulls back in action, with Lonzo Ball bringing some big attention there, with DeMar DeRozan bringing some more attention to the Bulls, I think Zach LaVine's really going to benefit from the Bulls being great again, and I think that's really going to his averages may be roughly the same, but I think he will get a lot more attention. And Chicago has a pretty big fan base. The Bulls have a big fan base, so I definitely think Zach LaVine is a very good player to be investing in before next season and before the attention starts to pick up on his cards. But without further ado, we're going to hop right into our next pick, and we got Russell Westbrook. I think his demand will be going up a lot because, of course, he's on a championship contending team this year. He's pretty much the only thing he's lacking in his career is that championship. He's won an MVP. He's had incredible stats his whole career. And now is his chance to win a championship. He's in the bright lights in LA. The Lakers, fans are insane. There's a lot of attention that's going to be on the Lakers as their favorites to come out of the Western Conference, and I think the demand for Russell Westbrook is going to be incredible, and that's why I think his low pop cards are going to see a lot of great growth. His second-year Topps Chrome, I believe when, investors who cannot afford his 2008 Topps Chrome in the middle of the season, when demand is hot, they usually go towards his second-year Topps Chrome, and this has an incredibly low population, and you can get them for around $40 to $50. So I definitely think this is a very good buy right now. Heading into next season, given he's now on the Lakers and will be, instead of being on the Wizards and hardly anyone talking about you, you're all of a sudden on the Lakers and you're a star like Westbrook. Everyone knows you. I think that's going to really help his prices. But that leads us into the last kind of, overall category for investments next year, and that is simply, the stars on the six stars on the Nets and Lakers. And these two teams are such heavy favorites to come out of their conferences. LeBron and the Lakers are favorites to come out of the Western Conference, and of course KD and the Nets are favorites to come out of the Eastern Conference. And I think demand is going to be on these two teams, the whole entire season. Of course, from the preseason and their first matchup, there's just so much excitement around the Lakers and Nets, and I think they're definitely going to compete in the finals, is my personal opinion. Of course, it's very hard to tell, but given they stay healthy, it's very tough for teams with so much talent to, fumble this. So I definitely think investing in these guys, it's a very good opportunity right now before attention starts to creep in when the season starts. So I think you can't go wrong with any of the six superstars across the two teams. So Kyrie Irving, James Harden, of course Kevin Durant, you've got LeBron, Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis. I think it's very hard to go wrong. I think demand is going to be there. So I definitely think these are some great investments that you can't go wrong with. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Once again, if you would like to join in on the profit with our Sports Card Invest members, click the link down below to sportscardsinvest.com. But other than that, I'm out. Peace.